Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Truth Lies Shenanigans, the live show for Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. My name is Neil, and my job is to introduce you to my co-hosts. So, to my left, the scholarly Miss Lizzie.
Happy Wednesday, happy hump day, everyone. How many humps can you pump? Whoop, whoop, whoop.
And below me, the family man East.
Welcome everybody to the show. Thanks for coming in.
In the opposite corner, we have the gamer Rob B.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's good to be here. Another Wednesday night.
All right. Welcome. Today's show, the mass unwanted hysterectomies given to migrants at a Georgia detention center are all too real. Today we have attorney Reverend Kimberlee Payton Jones joining us to tell us her client's story. Also, in our hot topics, East asks if people in the Trump cult can ever be deprogrammed. Rob B tells us that Canadians are sending poison letters to the White House. And Liz Z talks about Ellen addressing the toxic culture on her show. Remember, our show is streaming live just about everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitter at TLS Live Show. And you can watch us at www.truthlieShenanigans.com. And if you're loving our show, let's get the word out. Take a minute. Think of a couple of people, a couple of friends that you think would enjoy our show and mention them in the comments section so they can see us, especially with what we have discussing today with our guest. We're certain that they will appreciate the conversation for it. And of course, we love it when you join in the conversation. We'll be checking the conversations, the comments on all of our feeds, responding to you live on air. All right, co-hosts, we have a packed show. So let's get started. Now, we got some breaking news today. The officers that killed Breonna Taylor were finally charged today, but those charges are completely unrelated to Taylor's murder. The grand jury charged Brett Hankinson with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first-degree shooting for blindly shooting into the apartment, but the investigation determined all of the officers' use of force was justified because they had been fired upon first. So let's make this quick. Let me know your thoughts. Lizzie?
So let me just put this scenario out there. And I have no warrants out on me. I have no bodies on me, no warrants on me, anything like that. However, last week I was teaching online for my Zoom classes. I teach 5 classes a day. Teaching online, in the middle of teaching, someone comes pounding on my door. Someone that I didn't invite, someone that I didn't expect, someone that I didn't anticipate. And I'm teaching. Thankfully, at the time, I was running a movie for the students, so I was able to step away. They couldn't see me, but I went to the door with a knife because the pounding was so intense. It's like, Who the F is this at my door?
Yep.
Like, people in their homes, first reaction is to protect themselves. And there's some discrepancy as to whether or not they identify themselves or not. But for me, I'm just like, you come to my house with all of that aggression, it's going to be on, especially if you don't identify yourself. It's in the middle of the night. What are you doing banging on my door?
Yep. For those that don't know Breonna Taylor's story, who may or may not, I know we've all heard it in the news, but Breonna Taylor was in her home. She had a boyfriend that was being investigated for, I believe it was drugs.
Ex-boyfriend.
Sorry. Yep.
Ex-boyfriend.
Correction.
Ex-boyfriend.
Thank you for correcting that. Ex-boyfriend that was being investigated, and she was thought to be part of the investigation. And so they invaded her home in the middle of the night when she was with her current boyfriend. Her current boyfriend had a weapon, and
Illegally had a weapon.
correction, illegally had a weapon, and he fired upon the intruders. There was some
Kicked the door down.
yep,
Who kicked the door down?
who happened to be police officers, and then one of the officers blindly shot um, into the home. So, Robbie, killing Breonna. Your thought?
It's I mean, it's a charge, but I don't think that it's the socially responsible charge. I don't think that it's the warranted charge. It's it's really a drop in the bucket. I don't think that the investigation should be closed, and I think that there should be more charges pressing. And just as Liz was alluding, if they did not identify themselves as law enforcement, and even if they did in the middle of the night and kicking down a door, that's a lot of commotion. And if you're being woken up by that, all you know is that someone is breaking into your home. So it's a very tragic series of events that led to a tragedy. So it's like I said, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. East.
And the officer that was charged, he was charged for shooting into other apartments, not Breonna Taylor's
Very
apartment.
good point.
So it's to the point that the property destruction was more important than Breonna Taylor's life. Now, truth be told, I don't know all the evidence. We've discussed some of it on the show, but on a visceral front, this is highly disturbing to people of color, where it just seems like so often police officers get away with killing Black and brown people all of the time. This has been going back decades, going back to as far, I've read books about how in '68 they raided Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers. They shot the door 99 times and no officer was charged. So this has been going on for decades. And I hate to say it, but I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed, slightly angry, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lizzie.
It also very quickly it raises the question of what type of surveillance that they do on Breonna Taylor before they decided to exercise this warrant, particularly because they said that they didn't know or they missed the fact that she came home with the current boyfriend. They thought she was in the house by herself, when in fact she came home with her boyfriend. Also, we know that she was an EMT worker. Okay, so did they ever question her? Because the guy they were looking for did not live at the residence. Like, he may have had some past history with that residence, but he did not live there. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was already in custody by the time this happened. I could be wrong on that. But it still begs the question, did they at least attempt to question Breonna about this young man before they decided to exercise this warrant? Like, there has to be a whole lot that goes before this,
Yes.
before you get to this extreme end result.
And that brings up my thoughts on it. I mean, it's, as far as the officers themselves, I don't know that they should be charged with, maybe first degree murder or even second degree murder. I mean, certainly reckless endangerment for sure. I think the charges don't meet the the scenario. But with that being said, I think there should be charges for other people involved? Like, where do they get their information? I mean, there's more people that were involved in this that are responsible. I don't know that they're criminal charges necessarily, but even something. I mean, it's not enough. My thought is it's just not enough. So, all right.
I mean, something doesn't add up because the city already paid millions of dollars in the settlement. The officers were fired, yet legally nothing happened.
Yeah.
So the situation is incongruent.
So the
And
isn't the district attorney or the is it the district attorney? I think he's Republican, right?
the attorney general
Attorney General,
of
yeah,
Kentucky,
yeah, he's
Is
Republican.
it-
I don't know. I was watching and I'm listening to him when he's talking, and I know I just got a really, I don't know. I just got a shady vibe from him when I was listening to him. So I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this very quickly, Neo and East and Rob. Even with these three charges, do you think there's going to be any guilty verdicts that
no,
this officer, because he can
I'm
do,
sorry, I
I
said
think with
it
the
too fast.
charge,
You did say it pretty fast.
it's with the charges, it's 1 to 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, that he could get. So do you think we're going to see any jail time for this officer?
At best, probation.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with you on probation, but I think that there'll be something. I think they'll be charged. I think there's just too much pressure not to.
Nobody's going to jail.
No, I don't. Enough for
No.
no for significant. No, not for any significant amount of time. But
No.
all right, let's go ahead and get into the show. So let me tell our viewers a little bit about what Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans is all about, and you've gotten a little taste from our discussion on Breonna Taylor. We'll be sharing our truths and opinions with you, calling out the lies and pointing out the crazy shenanigans going on in this world. But most importantly, on this show, we try to have some fun with shenanigans of our own. We have one rule for the host, and that's no cussing. If you get caught cussing, there's a $10 penalty, and if you're caught 3 times in the same show, you are going to be writing a love letter to Dear Donald Trump.
We fell in love.
So hopefully we don't have any cussing tonight. You see Lizzie is way in the lead.
I'm being very respectful of our guest tonight, who is a reverend, so I'm going to keep it very straight and narrow.
All right, good. All right. Bunch of good viewers online. Sorry I didn't get to your comments for that, but we got to move on. So our viewers last week, we shared with you a story about migrant workers at the Irwin County Detention Center in rural Georgia, where people were subjected to forced and unwanted sterilizations. A whistleblower filed a report on behalf of a whistleblower report was filed on behalf of nurse Dawn Wooten, a former employee of the center, claiming an alarming rate of hysterectomies performed on Spanish-speaking women, who she and other nurses feared did not understand what they were undergoing or that they were lied to. Wooten claimed the doctor, who has since been identified as gynecologist Dr. Mahindra Amin, was so notorious performing these procedures that Wooten referred to him in her report as the uterus collector. This was in addition to poorly protecting migrant workers from COVID. So let me share a quick video of Nurse Wooten.
I've been nursing at Irwin County Detention Center for the past 9 months this time go around. Begin to see the living conditions that they were in, things not being sanitized, coming to work, not having the proper PPE. I was told not to tell officers that there were detainees that they dealt with day in and day out that were positive. I was symptomatic. Doctor's excuse that said stay home until your symptoms resolve. I was told to come to work. I was told that when they bring immigrants in, that they were a head count for pay. And I had several detained women on numerous occasions that would come to me and say, Miss Wooten, I had a hysterectomy. Why? I had no answers as to why they had those procedures. And one lady walked up to me here this last time around between October of 19 until July the 2nd. And she said, what is he? Is he the uterus collector? Does he collect uteruses? And I asked her, what did she mean? And she says, everybody that I talked to has had a hysterectomy, and you just don't know what to say.
So tonight we have a special guest joining our show to share some truth with you. I'd like to welcome Attorney Reverend Kimberlee Payton Jones to the show.
Hello.
Hello, Kimberlee.
Hey, Kimberlee, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank
Lizzie,
you for
would you
having
like
me.
Lizzie, would you like to
Thank you
introduce?
for being here. Yes, I would love to introduce Kimberlee. So Kimberlee is a DC native. And so in talking to Kimberlee today, we found out that although we did not go to the same high school or elementary school or junior high school, we have a lot of the same friends. So we have familiar background as it relates to that. But let me just give, the audience, Kimberlee, before we allow you to tell us why you're here and how you relate to this story, let me just give the audience a little bit of background about you. So you are the founding minister of Halo, a community ministry serving South Atlanta, and you are licensed and ordained at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where you were an active member for over 10 years. Some of your community work includes serving as co-chair of the Advocacy Committee for the Georgia-Alabama chapter of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and servicing undocumented youth in immigration court through the Attorney of the Day program. You are also the president of the South Atlanta Civic League. You served as chair for the Judicial and Public Office Academy of the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, and you also served as a member of the advisory board of the Georgia Lawyers for the Arts. Kimberlee has earned her BA at the College of William and Mary, her law degree from Georgetown University here in Washington, D.C., where you taught high school students street law and represented juveniles in criminal court. You were also a Congressional Black Caucus intern, a public interest law scholar, and was awarded the Juvenile Justice Advocacy Award. So welcome to the show, Kimberlee. Thank you so much
Quite a
for joining
resume.
us.
Quite a resume.
Quite a resume, and we are so blessed to have you here. So please tell us a little bit, in your words, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started working with immigrants.
Well, as you mentioned, I grew up in DC, and I grew up in a neighborhood which at the time was very international. I grew up in Mount Pleasant, but like right on the cusp of Mount Pleasant and Adams Morgan. And back when I was living there, it was very, very international. I had friends who were from El Salvador, Guatemala, Peru, everywhere. We would walk to school and there would be the building where the Koreans lived, the other building where the people from the Caribbean lived. So I just kind of always grew up in a very international environment. And when I was in school, I would always say I wanted to go into international law. I didn't really know what that was and what it meant, but I think because I had that lifelong interest, and then like yourself, Lizzie, I like to travel, and I studied abroad, and so immigration just seemed a natural part of my practice.
Okay. And so what is it exactly that you do? You're currently based in Atlanta, correct?
Yes.
And so what is
I'm,
it
I'm, I'm
exactly?
currently.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So yeah, I'm based in Atlanta. I have my own practice, and a part of my practice is devoted to immigration, and so I represent people in a variety of matters regarding their immigration status, from asylum to people who are currently facing deportation, and people who maybe got married and want to get their spouse over here. So just a variety of immigration matters.
And so how did you get involved into the current hot topic? And I know there were some things that you wanted to clarify about what is going on with the whistleblowers allegations and what's being alleged that is happening to a lot of the immigrants that are at this particular detention center.
Okay, well, I think there has been a lot of energy around the hysterectomies and a lot of focus on forced sterilization and eugenics. And that's a part of it, but it's not the largest part of it. To me, this is about commodifying the bodies of vulnerable women. We're talking about women, we're talking about women of color, we're talking about women with no legal immigration status, and we're talking about women who are detained. So they are in very, very vulnerable positions. And so what is happening is that you have this doctor, Dr. Amin, who is taking advantage of them by giving them unauthorized surgeries. Among those surgeries have been some hysterectomies. There have also been people having their parts of their fallopian tubes cut off, but there's just been other surgeries involving women's reproductive organs that he has essentially lied to them about and coerced them into having.
So if I'm
So
clear, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So if I'm clear, you're saying that these are not necessarily forced hysterectomies or forced um, surgeries. It's more that they've been tricked into them or that they've been um, misled in some way to have them. Is that what? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the way I got involved in this, I had a client who is wanting to remain anonymous because of
Understood.
what she's witnessed with ICE and retaliation, where women have spoken out and been subsequently deported. There was another woman who spoke out, and ICE officers beat her up in front of other people. So, there is this retaliation for people who speak out. But I became involved with this. My client was arrested for a very minor charge. And had it been, she had gotten into an argument with her sister. Her sister called the police. Her sister had her citizenship, and my client was undocumented. Now, had it been one of us, we would have gotten arrested, gone in front of the judge, gotten a very nominal bail, or been let out on our own recognizance, and probably eventually got those criminal charges dismissed. Now, in her case, we were able to get the criminal charges dismissed. She was charged with simple battery, which could just mean you push somebody. It can mean you put your finger in somebody's face, or simple battery. And it was her sister. So her criminal charges were dismissed. She was detained at the end of September of 2018, and we had her criminal charges dismissed in early January. It was a little delayed because there's time for them to assign a prosecutor, and then we ran into the holidays, but they were ultimately dismissed. Unfortunately, Georgia is a very tough state on immigration, and so the judge initially wouldn't release her on bond. The immigration judge wouldn't initially release her on bond because she had this pending criminal charge. But once it was dismissed, I went back with a new motion for a bond redetermination, saying, listen, her criminal charges are gone. So there are two things that you have to prove. One, that you don't have any criminal records, you're not a danger to society, and that you have strong ties to the United States. So in her case, she had no criminal charges. She has children who are U.S. citizens. Both of her parents are green card holders, and we just mentioned that she has a sister who's a citizen. She has a work history, and she was actually enrolled in college at the time. She was able to present her tax record, so we're showing that she has these strong ties to the U.S., but the judge simply would not let her out. And so she ultimately ended up being detained for a year and a half.
Wow.
So in the course of that time that she was detained, she had it's crazy, right? And I think when she first she's in her 20s and she has small children, so she literally did not see her children for a year and a half. But when she first got processed in, she had alerted the ICE officers that she had a Mirena IUD that needed to be taken out because it had been there for about 3 years and it was just time for it to be taken out. And it was starting to slip and it was uncomfortable. So she told them that as soon as she was processed in. She did not get treatment to get her IUD removed until July of 2019.
Good Lord.
She was detained at the end of September of 2018 and did not get this IUD removed until July of 2017. Now, this is despite numerous requests. She told them as she was being processed, and this is despite numerous requests, written, oral, and they just wouldn't treat her.
Wow.
When she finally went to see the gynecologist, it was Dr. Amin, and he took the IUD out, which is, takes like a minute or two just to take it out.
Yep.
And he said, do you want to get a pap smear? And she says, yeah, let me get a pap smear. It's been some time. And he gives her a pap smear, gives her an exam, and says, hey, I found these cysts on your ovaries. He's like, you have some smaller ones. I'm not really worried about that, but you have one that's the size of a golf ball, and it needs to be removed, or you're going to have some very severe health complications. And so she said, okay, she was a little nervous. She was like, okay, well, what will happen? And he explained to her that it was going to be a very simple outpatient surgery that would take place in his office, because she was at his office. He said it would take place in his office, and he would just drain the cysts, and that would be the end of it. So she agreed to it, thinking that it was his health issue. And so she came back. About 2 weeks later, she was being transported in a van, shackled, and at this point, be mindful that she had no pending criminal charges.
Shackled?
And they would shackle her every time she went to the doctor. And she had no criminal charges. And really, what people don't understand is that immigration violations aren't necessarily criminal. They're often civil. And in
One
her
of the questions
case,
I was going to ask.
she didn't come here illegally. She came here as a minor with her parents, and she overstayed her visa. So she didn't enter the country illegally. She overstayed her visa through no choice of her own, because she came as a minor with her parents.
Mhm.
And so that's a civil violation. But yet and still, she is detained and being treated like a criminal, as are many people who are caught up in this immigration system.
Yeah, I was going to
So in
ask you.
any
So what?
Sure.
What are the? I mean, what are the rules for detainees? I mean, what are the rules for detentions like that? I mean, what are they being detained for, in general? Or what are they intended? I'm sorry. Let me ask this: what are they intended to be detained for? What is a detention center supposed to do versus what they actually are doing?
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be like any other place where you're detained. Either you're awaiting trial, or in this case, they're awaiting to be deported.
Mhm.
Now, what happens practically is that, particularly in Georgia, where this was, is that Georgia has a very, very low rate of granting people asylum. They've been sued by the ACLU. So most of the time, when if you end up detained, the odds are against that you're more likely than not going to be deported. A lot of times people choose to take voluntary departure so they can just leave and hurry up and get on with the process.
Yep.
But they're usually awaiting trial or waiting deportation. And so she was, she had been through trial, and we were going through the asylum process, and we were, working on relief for her. And so the day that she was going to get her cyst drained, she's in the van with another woman who the doctor has told has cancer in her uterus. And the woman was like, oh yeah, we're going to go to the hospital. And my client was like, oh, I'm not going to the hospital. And she's like, yes, we are. We're on the way to the hospital. And she's like, well, maybe you're going to the hospital, but I'm not going to the hospital. I'm just going to his office to get, this cyst drain. It's not a big deal. Well, lo and behold, she ends up at the hospital, and she's like, well, what am I doing at the hospital? And they tell her, like, you're going to have to get this cyst, and, we're going to have to put you under general anesthesia, and, we're going to have to cut you. And she was like, whoa, 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 this is not what I was expecting. She's like, well, can I have some time? Right. She's like, can I have some time to talk this over with my attorney or think about it for a day or two? And the nurse was like, well, you can do that if you want to, but if you do that, you're going to be putting yourself in danger. This cyst can burst and cause you all kinds of problems, and it'll
So she was
probably take
pressured.
a long time. Yeah, she was like, it'll probably take a long time for ICE to approve the surgery, if they do it at all, because if you're electing not to do it, then that means that you're not really having that many issues.
They almost gave her no other
And-
option.
Right. Didn't give her any, even in a normal course of medical care, if someone tells you have a cyst, they might say it would be better if you have it removed, but if you don't want to go through with it, here are some options. There was never any options or anything given to her, and she had this enormous pressure placed on her. And be mindful, this is a woman who has had sharp pains and had experienced the discomfort of an IUD that was, not positioned properly, and had to deal with that for 8 months. So she is aware of how long ICE can take to
Mm-hmm.
approve medical
Mm-hmm.
procedures. So she believes, like, if I don't do this, I could have this thing burst inside of me and not get treatment, because that's been her experience.
Yeah.
And so she agreed to have it done when she said, but give me a copy of whatever I'm signing. And so they said they would. The anesthesiologist comes in, and she's like, well, why am I going under general anesthesia? She didn't realize that she was going to be placed under it. And he was like, believe me, you don't want to be awake for this surgery. And so she was very nervous, and he was about to treat her, but she was like, you do know that I'm allergic to penicillin. And he said, oh, really? And he's like, oh, I'm glad that you told me, because I was about to, have this in the mix. And so
They didn't
luckily,
ask her. They didn't ask
right.
her. Lord.
I mean,
Well,
that's
it's
standard. That's the standard thing every time you go to the hospital.
yeah, they say, are you allergic to any medicines? Didn't ask her. She just volunteered. And so she has a surgery. She doesn't see the doctor before she goes into surgery, doesn't see the doctor after she comes out of surgery. She wakes up, she's very upset, she's crying, and she's had this surgery. She goes back into the population, sleeping on a hard bed, sleeping on the top bunk. She asked if she could be placed on a bottom bunk. They didn't want to let her do it. They weren't giving her the proper medication afterwards, the proper pain medication. And she ultimately ended up getting an infection in her ovaries, for which
Oh
she was
no.
supposed to antibiotics, but they weren't giving her the antibiotics. And she complained to the doctor, they're not giving me the medicine I'm supposed to have. And so he did call and say, hey, she really needs to get this medicine. And they ultimately gave it to her. But she was having a lot of pain. And one thing that she has a lot of energy around and is upset about is that throughout the surgery, her stomach was cut. And she had what we would call an outie on her navel, but after the surgery, her navel was completely gone. And so it was just kind of a concave hole, which also, kind of made her ask, like, what happened to me? What was done to me when I was under general anesthesia and knocked out? And so, she was complaining about the pain. They weren't cleaning her wounds properly. They weren't giving her the antibiotics. And so in retaliation, the ICE officers are like, okay, well, since you're having so many problems, we're going to put you in medical. And going to medical is basically like going to solitary confinement, is where they keep people who are on suicide watch. You have no commissary, you have no TV, you can't talk to anyone, you can't take phone calls. And they take her over there, and she's very upset and nervous, and she's like, okay, I'm sorry, like, take me back to general population. And so she's intimidated into not even being able to voice what her medical problems are.
Wow.
So luckily I was able to end up getting her out. We had another attorney who came in and who was assisting us with the asylum, and I had done some other things on her case, but I kind of moved away from the case while her asylum was pending.
Mhm.
But I kept in touch with her mom, and I was doing these other visas. And so her mom had reached out to me, and I was like, oh, how's she doing? And she told me that she was still detained, and I could not believe that she was still detained after, a year and a half. And so I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I was like, I'm going to pretend like this is my sister. I'm going to pretend like this is somebody in my family, and I'm just going to do whatever I can to get her out of here.
Yeah.
And which entailed me like making calls to all kinds of people, calling everybody in ICE. And this was right when the pandemic hit, and Georgia shut down. So I know, like, there was one ICE officer who cooperated with me. It was like, send me, the fact that her charges got dismissed, come down here and meet with me. This is the beginning of the pandemic. I had my mask on, my gloves. I had her whole huge file with everything in there. And so he ultimately agreed to release her, and he released her on her own cognizance. And, even now, she hasn't been back to the doctor. She's going back this week, but she's been experiencing a lot of pain, particularly close to her menstrual cycle. But, the thing is, she is an undocumented immigrant. She doesn't have insurance.
Let me
She
ask you
doesn't
this
have
question
access.
real quick. So,
Yeah.
does she still have to see the same Dr. Amin, or is she seeing someone else?
No, she's out. She's been released, and
She's
she's
been
going to
released, so
see.
she is seeing someone else. Okay.
Yeah, because
But I
and
just
so
want-
here's the kicker. I had a friend of mine who's an OBGYN review her medical files. And we also, through our American Immigration Lawyers Association, have some doctors who are working with us who have reviewed her medical files. And what they have said is that her surgery was completely medically unnecessary, because in addition to having this, cyst removed, they also did a DNC on her, which she had no
Wow.
idea was going to.
For what?
And it was just completely medically unnecessary. And they said that there was no ultrasound that showed any cyst being the size of a golf ball, and that the cyst that she did have was a regular follicular cyst that every woman gets every month when you ovulate. And so the even worse part about it is that there are other women, and they've reviewed their medical files, and they said that it's the exact same thing. It's like you could take one medical file and replace it with the other, because he's putting the
So he's doing
exact
it
same
over
thing
and over again.
and doing
This is
the cyst removal on cysts that don't need to be
And
removed.
it's to make money, right? So he can earn more money, right? Yeah.
this
This
is
is
Right,
just
because
so
they would.
diabolical. It's so diabolical because, like you said, these are procedures. These are invasive medical procedures that are unnecessary and that are causing extreme harm. But also, if you think about the main story, like remember, and you clarified some of this last week, the story was about hysterectomies. And then as it started to come out, okay, well, no, it's not really hysterectomies in the majority of the stories. Then people turn the page. It's like, okay, well, it's not hysterectomy, so then we don't need to care. There's nothing happening. There's no wrong being done to these women. So let's go on to the next story. Whereas clearly, even though, a uterus hasn't been removed, there is still a lot of medical malpractice and trauma going on here. And that is just so outrageous to me. So,
we have
and
a
as someone who has had, a myomectomy, who's had surgery, I've had my fibroids, removed or what have you, I understand what goes on in these processes. And so to think that people are invading this space for no reason is just, I mean, it's so appalling to me. It's so ridiculous.
is.
You
Let's
know?
get.
And
We
it
have
has
about 3 minutes. Let me just get Rob B and East a quick question in here.
So, my question is the hospitals that these women are reporting to for the surgeries and the nursing staff who is supporting the doctor's diagnosis, are they complicit in this whole process, or are they being deceived by Dr. Amin and his misdiagnoses?
Well, at this point, we are suspecting that there were some people who were complicit, like the nurse who was coercing her into doing it. And my position is this is a man who has already been found to have committed Medicaid fraud and had to pay significant restitution. And so I say, my client said when they were all being diagnosed with all these cysts, there were at least 5 people on her pod who had this cyst. This other lady who I mentioned, he said had cancer. When she was released, she went to go get checked, and she did have a hysterectomy, no trace of cancer anywhere. But initially they were thinking, why does everyone have these cysts? Is it something in the food that they're giving us? Is it something in the water? Not realizing that it was the doctor. And so I say, this man has already been found guilty of Medicaid fraud. Who's approving these charges for
Mm-hmm.
the
Right,
surgeries?
Mm-hmm.
If inmate,
Somebody should have
right,
noticed a pattern. Somebody should have noticed a
right.
pattern.
why is no one saying, hey, there's an awful lot of these surgeries going
Mm-hmm.
on, like maybe we need to look
Mm-hmm.
a little more closely at this, which to me implies or indicates that there was a lot of people who were complicit in
It
this.
has to be. East.
And that kind of leads to my question: like, who's following the money? Because I think wherever the money is flowing, that money is flowing to the doctor somehow. And where is that coming from? Who's funding the doctor? Has that been investigated? Are you at
Well,
liberty
it's
to share the
under
information?
investigation now, because there are some things that look a little suspicious where there's relations between people who are in the county who are approving contracts related to the warden of the jail. I don't want to falsely accuse anybody else right now, but all of that is being investigated. And so what it breaks down to is a doctor, I'm just giving examples. Let's say he would receive $100 for an initial visit where he's just pulling out a IUD and like doing an exam. But when he's now doing this surgery, that goes to
Thousands of
15.
dollars. Yeah.
And now you're doing this times all these women.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to make a whole lot more money.
Make more money. All right, I'm
Can I
just gonna
follow up?
yeah, make it real quick.
He was charged with Medicaid fraud. Why do we know why he was allowed to keep his license?
No, we don't know why. He had to pay over $500,000 worth of restitution for the fraud, and there is even some debate about whether or not he was board certified.
All right, I'm gonna just go to the comments real quick online. Almost everyone is saying this is appalling, deeply disturbing. Paulette, Salai, Mike Winter. Jacqueline Robinson says this is what happens when people are dehumanized. It gives the dominant caste carte blanche to do what they want to marginalize people. Katie says, Jesus, is there no help or hope for these women? This is horrible. Rupka was asking, what procedure was the belly button procedure? It was just part of the surgery, right?
Yeah, that was part of the surgery. And that's one of the things we want to figure out, why that kind of incision was needed was made for what was supposed to have happened. And I will just say quickly, we are working, American Immigration Lawyers Association, we're all working really hard. We've testified to Congress. Congress is opening up a formal investigation. We're working to get the women who have had these treatments released and have their deportation stayed, at least until the investigation is resolved. So we are working to get justice for these women, in addition to my own.
Then final comments here from Marjorie Lorraine. We need more female providers. It's not difficult to file a complaint against a provider. Look at the back of your insurance card and call the member services that are obligated to investigate. So yeah. So we have to shut it down. But Reverend Jones, if you have any last comments, feel free to share with us.
Well, I just want to say quickly, because I appreciated the fact that you showed the clips of the nurse there and what my client indicated about Nurse Wooten. She's a hero. She was brave enough to speak out about this. But she said when they were in there, she was the only nurse that was always following up with them to make sure they had their medication. She would stay late to make sure they got their proper treatment. And like, she was the only person that showed them any compassion while they were in there. So, thank her for her bravery and the courage to speak out about what was going on in there.
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, we need more people like that.
Well, and I was just going to say also thank you too for your fortitude and, for, just keeping up with this story and representing these women in their struggle. I mean, obviously these are horrible atrocities that are taking place and that a lot of people in this country turn a blind eye to because the victims are vulnerable. The victims can't speak up for themselves. And like you said, a lot of them are undocumented. So why would we care? Well, we are all humans. We should care. So thank you so much for being an advocate for these women and giving them a voice and hope.
And
well, thank you all for having me. I look forward to seeing more episodes of your show.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back to get an update on this as well. So we'll keep in touch with you because we want to kind of know what comes out of this, especially when we comes back with the investigation. So
right,
we'll definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Kimberlee.
All right. All right, guys.
A lot of information.
That was a lot. It's a pretty appalling story, really. Yeah. Actually, one of the questions I should have asked her was, I'm curious how old her client was. I don't think we got that from her. But
I think she said, she's in her 20s. Yeah. And has young kids is what I got from that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so we're going to move on to our hot topics. We have very little time, so let's move quickly, guys. So let me tell you a little bit about the hot topic.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Each of our hosts comes with a topic in the news they want to discuss. They'll tell us about their hot topic, ask a question, and we'll start our timer. Our host will discuss. Once time is up, we'll see our friend Gingy, and he will let us know that time is up. And we'll move on to the next host and the next topic. talk about what they want. So I'm telling you, Rob's probably got some moves.
He's shown us his moves a little bit, and he's a musician. So
That's
yeah,
true. He should
yeah,
have some moves. All right,
Got
make
some
sure you
rhythm.
do make sure you're sharing your thoughts and feelings and questions because we will be listening and responding to as many as we can. So we're going to start today with Rob B. Is this a truth, lie, or
And
shenanigans, buddy?
this is a truth. This is a truth, and definitely shenanigans behind it for sure. A Quebec resident named Pascal Ferrier was identified as the suspect that sent the letters that contained ricin to the White House and various locations in Texas. For those who aren't clear, ricin is a deadly extract from castor beans, and there's no known antidote for it.
Are we saying
Further
she tried to
point,
put out a hit on someone in the White House?
that is correct. I believe in a few years ago, there were some ricin envelopes that were sent out to the Clintons and
I remember
Obamas
that.
as well, and a bunch of other politicians. So this is really a repetition of the same type of ploy. So whoever caught it, and now it's been traced back to this individual. So they're telling you that this is a Canadian. This is a woman from
blame
Quebec.
Canada,
Canada did it.
So she
blame
has
Canada.
been she's had Canadian resident or Canadian citizenship since November 2015. Prior to that, she's from France. So she moved to Little France across the pond, and she is French. She's not Canadian. She did spend some time in the States. In 2019, she was in Texas and she was charged with unlawfully carrying a weapon, knowingly using a fake driver's license, and she spent 3 months in jail. So she is familiar with your system. Um, and while I was doing my homework, I found it very interesting that there have only been um, two or three other attempts from foreign nationals on American soil on American presidents. So Truman actually had two separate attempts, and there was Donald Trump with the Michael Steven Sanford incident in Vegas when this gentleman tried to grab a service revolver, and it was holstered, it was clipped, and then he was subsequently deported back to the UK. I mean, to me, this is just incredible, absolutely incredible that the
That the
man
Canadians are trying to put a hit out
generates
on our president. You guys, you
right.
guys are trying. You guys are trying to poison our president. You know this is appalling. This is awful. I just why would you do that? Why Robbie? Go
Mais
ahead, Lizzie.
pourquoi? Mais
Oh,
pourquoi?
wait, did you ask a question, Robbie? What did you?
I said, mais pourquoi? Why?
Is that the question?
No, go ahead, Lizzie.
Yeah, I think Rupka just asked if I sent this young lady, if I gave her some money underneath the table to, send some rice into the White House. Absolutely not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Even though I am not a fan of the current president, the current POTUS, I am not a fan of the current White House administration. This is the last thing that we need. We
Strong
don't need our
comment.
president to be assassinated. We don't need our president to be poisoned. That is
Make him
could
a
lead
martyr.
to the fall of make him a martyr, first of all, especially for his cult-like followers, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what East was going to talk about in his topic. Hello, no. But also it leads to the fall of the US government because it shows a weakness
Mm-hmm.
in terms of who we are as a people, our leaders, and our government. So, no, Canada, French Canadians, French people, stop it. Stop trying to kill our president. No, no, no. He's 70, he's senile, he will die of natural causes. Let it happen naturally. We don't want any of this outside interference. East, I know he's
Man,
your
we have
boy.
enough.
I know he's your boy,
Here we
East. So
go.
You almost
Not me
dodged
this
it.
time.
I thought we were cool.
Wasn't me this time though.
I mean, we got enough foreign nationals involved in the election. We don't need somebody trying to kill the president. I mean, come on. Let's try to solve our problems on our own. Hopefully, come November 3rd, we vote this man out. He can go quietly in the night, and we can go on about a business and wake up from this 4-year nightmare.
So
That's
I'm gonna walk on eggshells here because I'm gonna speak like this. I don't necessarily agree with you guys because because I don't want this. I don't want this to be seen by like the Secret Service or something like that, and then come back saying I said
careful.
something. Right. So I'm gonna be very, very careful. So I'm gonna just say that I mildly disagree with both Lizzie and East, and that's all I'm gonna say.
And I am going to say with a lot of fervor that you are wrong.
Fair enough.
Do not need an assassination of our leader, of our POTUS.
I
That is
didn't. I didn't say that. I want to be very clear. Those words never came out of my mouth. Just saying I disagree.
I'm going to say Neo in your implication that you are wrong. Not what we need at all. I mean, our government already looks weak. Okay, we're already
right. That's what
the
I'm
last.
saying. I mean, right.
And
Exactly.
so the idea that a foreigner, I'm sorry, is she a French Canadian? Is she a Canadian? Is she a French woman?
You had it French. You were correct. You could stop right there. French.
Canadian.
Ooh.
I'm with.
Not even.
No,
5
Marjorie, I
years into
can't
the club.
explain in
She's not a
detail
real
because I don't want to get attacked by Secret Service. But I'm with Josie. Jose. I'm sorry, with Jose. She said she's. Is it a he or she? Jose?
That would be my wife, Jose.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Jose. Yeah. So, Jose, yes. Thank you. I'm going to say thank you.
Now, this is the last thing we need is a topple of the government.
I mean, that's true, though. I mean, I can't truly, totally disagree with you. I mean, we don't need any martyrs. We don't need a government toppled. We don't need tents. We don't need it.
And if
but I can dream. But I can dream.
Dream a little dream, right? If something like this were to happen, the GOP, Trump's followers would point the finger at the Democrats. This would be our fault. Yeah. And if you guys think that there is uprising in the streets now, none of us would be safe. Because he's already implored them to be violent. And he's already kind of put the seed in their brains that, they have it out for me. They could harm me. Yeah. So do not be afraid. If something happens to me, do not be afraid to bear arms. He gave the young man in Wisconsin permission. Basically said you were justified in shooting those people in the street. So imagine if something were to happen to him, the type of justification he would give his supporters to turn those rifles and those AK-47s on the rest of us. No, this is not what we need. Canadian.
It might be what we want,
take care
but
of
not
your
what
own.
we need.
Take care of your own. Put her in jail where she belongs.
What? See? And that you had her in jail. You had her in jail. You should have kept her in Texas.
Well, why do we think they set her free? Could it be
I know, right?
The
Democrats.
Democrat. A little bit of privilege.
No, it was a Democrat.
It
was definitely a Democrat. All right, few comments online. Mike Winter said he would be so humiliated when he loses to Joe Biden in a landslide. Let's focus on those efforts. Marjorie asked me to explain, as I mentioned. Can't do that. She also said Canadians are too polite to try to poison someone.
French, see? French. Liz,
do
you remember?
The French aren't too polite.
Come on, do you not remember freedom fries? Americans know how to be angry at the French. Just remember that.
All right, Lizzie. Truth, lies, or shenanigans. Let's get your topic in.
This is, I guess it's all truth. Based on some people say they're lies, but it's mostly truth. So Ellen DeGeneres, who is the famous host of the Ellen Show on NBC, she had a very rough pandemic season. She had a very rough summer in which a lot of her employees came out and said that she supported and was a part of a toxic work environment on the Ellen Show, including producers, including other staffers, including Ellen herself. So there was a lot of back and forth on social media, people making allegations about her producers being mean, some of them being racist, some of them being misogynistic. There were various clips and videos shown of Ellen in which she allegedly was mean to guests. The one that got me the most was, she was kind of mean to my girl Mariah Carey. So Mariah Carey had just had a miscarriage
Oh no.
a couple of months prior, showed up on Ellen's show and thought she was pregnant, and Ellen basically was like, okay, prove to us that you're not pregnant, because Mariah was not ready to announce her pregnancy. So she was like, okay, drink this alcohol to prove that you're not pregnant. And so it was a lot of kind of mean girl stuff. And I didn't really watch the Ellen Show. Did you all panel?
Yeah.
Did you watch?
Hmm.
You
Funny
were
to me.
fans.
I like
You were
Ellen show.
mean. You think I'm mean, but you thought Ellen was okay, right?
I mean, I thought she was joking, but I
Mm.
mean, that's her type. That's the way she. That's her humor. Her humor
And
is
that's
kind of
why
a degrading humor.
I
She's a
don't like comedians.
She is a
Um,
sarcastic comedian. It's
Yeah.
her way of that was her claim to fame. That is her medium.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's her
and
type of humor.
And that's why I
Mhm.
don't like comedians, because I don't think everything is a joke. And I don't think you have to outwardly be mean to people under the guise of ha 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 ha, it's all funny. But there were a lot of allegations. And, she was taken to task in the media, in the public, especially on social media. So she came back from this, very tough summer and spring for her. With her first show since pre-pandemic. She came back on Monday and she gave an apology
I have a video of that
to which,
if you want it.
oh, please give it.
As you may have heard, this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show. And then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected. I know that I'm in a position of privilege and power, and I realize that with that comes responsibility, and I take responsibility for what happens at my show.
So my question to you all on the panel is, do you think that, one, this was an appropriate apology? And two, will you still be watching the Ellen Show?
Let's
Who
start
wants to
with
go?
East. He's been kind of quiet.
Was the apology appropriate? I guess so. I mean, this doesn't surprise me. I mean, I just think that when people get to a certain level, there's a certain level of a-holeness that they have where they're just kind of aloof and kind of separated from the others. So I'm not surprised that this occurred. I'm a little surprised that she was not able to properly insulate herself from these allegations get out to the point where he had such negative press, because she's generated much positive press over the last decade and a half. It just kind of exploded on her.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not surprised. And I was a big fan of her giving away stuff, because she seemed to give away money to people who were less fortunate. But outside of that, I don't care about the show. So it's not going to move me either way.
All right.
Rob, is Ellen popular in Canada?
Sure. I really don't know what her rating numbers are in Canada. I find her amusing. I can't say that I tune into the show religiously or anything, but if I catch snippets here and there online, she's usually pretty funny and on topic. Was the apology necessary, or was the apology appropriate? The apology was presented to her fan base. So she was presenting her feelings about the situation. This wasn't an apology to her staff. This was a public comment to the fans. And whether, and I think she did the best that she could with it. She's a comedian. It was awkward. You didn't have fans in the actual studio. You had TV screens up. It was a very different type of thing. So I would imagine that it would have been very awkward for someone to do their first show like that. And she is a comedian, so she made a couple little jokes that maybe shouldn't have been there, but it's a coping mechanism for sure. The real thing for me, and it's none of my business, is now how is she going to go back and run the show? How is she going to be with the staff and the people? I know that there was a promotion. Her DJ is now an associate producer or an executive producer. So that's all part of the show. It's all part of the entertainment thing. You know, when Christian Bale berated someone on set, he came out and had an apology. Was the apology enough? I didn't care about his apology in the media. How did he deal with the person that he hurt, that he verbally assaulted? It's none of my business. I hope that she's being genuine, and I hope that she's going to restructure her management style and that of her organization.
My thoughts
Yeah.
are I thought the apology was reasonable. I mean, there's only so much you can say. I mean, in terms of words, but it really comes down to the actions ultimately. And Rob was alluding to that. It really comes down to what she does moving forward. So I mean, it was necessary, needed to hear the apology, to acknowledge that she was responsible, even if it wasn't. Again, I don't know that I mean, people are people. I mean, to some degree, some people can be rude at times. People can be moody. People can be indirect, sarcastic. All of these things. So that is normal to be human. But with that being said, you know, she apologized, um, and she's got to fix the other issues that are unrelated to her specifically, because and then she could have created some of the toxic work culture herself. That's unclear whether or not she was the reason for it, or whether or not it was just part of the culture, or if she was unaware. That's all not clear. But the buck stops with her, and we just got to see. I just hope there's action going forward to improve it. But I like Ellen.
I mean, very quickly for me, one, again, I don't really like comedians, but I watch Ellen in certain scenarios. The most I watched Ellen was for her Halloween haunted house show every year. Love that, where she would have her producer go in and be scared, the bejesus, the Beyblade scared out of him. Love that. For me personally, I think one, we can't expect people to apologize without accepting their apology. So if we're not going to accept people's apologies, then let's just do away with apologies. And I agree with Rob and Neo here. Like, if she's apologizing to her, in addition to the public, if she's apologizing to her staff, then I'm all for it. Um, I just want people to understand, like, if your name is on the door, then you are responsible for both the good and the bad. And so whatever happens, it all falls on you. Point blank. So hopefully October 31st, I'm going to see a haunted house on Ellen and be able to laugh my ASS off again.
So close.
Almost got her. All right, so a few comments online. Let's see what we got here. I'm shocked. Allegations. This is from Marjorie. Oh, by the way, East, can you get the scoreboard together while we're going over this? I'm shocked the allegations only because Ellen has a reputation for being nice. I'm saddened that someone that I want thought of as being nice is not nice. I won't be watching the Ellen show. And added, and then Rupka says, and added, China did it. Marjorie says accountability. Mike Wolf says, doesn't matter in the apology, it matters how people are treated going forward. Rupka says, bye, Ellen, go away. I will not watch her show. Mike Winter says, She could have pulled a Trump and said she takes no responsibility. So, all right. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to skip on East's topic today. We're going to talk about Trump and the cult of Trump.
They're going to be around forever. They're going to be around forever. So,
Yep. So maybe next show, East will bring that to you guys. So, but that's going to be our hot topics for today, guys.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
But we have to leave some time for
the cheating game. The cheating game.
All right. So today's game is Shenanigans password. I'll be texting each of you 5 words, and you will have to get the other co-host to guess your word using your word. You cannot use any part of any part of the word, and you cannot use your hands or any part of your body for gestures.
What?
We'll have.
Hold up! You can't use your hands.
Just talk. Just gotta talk. No hands. We'll have 3 rounds, and you'll have 60 seconds to get your host to guess the word. All 5 words. For each word guessed correctly, both the clue giver and the guesser will get a point.
Ooh.
Make it interesting. All right. So we're going to start with Rob B. And Rob B, I'm going to send you your 5 words right now, and I'll tell you when to start. All right.
Got him.
You're all set?
Yep.
All right. Let me pull up the timer.
Talk to me, Rob.
All right. And go.
Someone that you send away to convert people, or your favorite, or a basic position.
What?
Missionary.
Correct.
You.
East.
Going to the local rub and tug and requesting satisfaction at the end is called a
Happy ending.
Correct.
East. So that was so contradictory. You're talking about a missionary and a happy ending.
Oh no, don't run out of time. Run out of time. Keep it going.
You never want this to break, or you may have consequences in 9 months.
Water.
Condom.
No.
Condom, correct. Lizzie.
If you're flirting using your eyes and your eyelashes, you might use a...
Not bad.
something that you will always remember. Natalie Cole song.
Unforgettable.
Oh yeah,
Thank
she
you.
got it in time. Look at that. So that's 4 points for Rob, 2 and 2 for East and Lizzie.
So under protest, I did lose about 10 seconds there. Just saying. Just saying. If we're talking about cheating, Liz, just saying.
Yep, Lizzie did it.
Now you know how it feels. My brother, equal opportunity.
All right, we're going with
that.
we're going with the young woman next. Ready?
I'm
Lizzie,
ready. Send it.
sending it to you right now.
Hold on.
Let me know when you got it.
Okay. So
You said you need a second, East? Hold on.
Yep,
Oh, you got it.
I'm ready.
All right.
okay, my gents.
Go ahead.
Snip, snip. What is that?
Vasectomy.
Nope.
Nope.
Scissors.
When you're a baby.
When you're
Umbilical
what?
cord.
Nope.
When you're a
Circumcision.
male baby.
Circumcision.
There you
We'll
go.
go with that. That works up.
All right, what's next? What do you do to cut something? What do you use? What instrument do you use to cut
Scissors.
something? Okay, so what is the verb of scissors?
Scissoring.
Yes, correct. Next.
Gosh, blank waters, not deep.
Dark waters.
Oh.
Troubled waters.
Say again?
Troubled waters.
Nope.
No, not deep water, not a lot of water. It's
Shallow.
Shallow water.
Yes. Next.
Good.
10 seconds.
Okay. Red tooth. What's the opposite?
Yep, use word tooth. Hold on.
Oh, man. All right.
All right. 3 for Lizzie, 1 each for East and Rob. Wait, who got the? Oh, yeah.
Two.
Rob got 2. Rob got 2. All right. Let me see. Let me get while you're doing that, East.
I think see, again, cheating. My words were much harder than Rob's words.
I wanted you to get to the last
Endgame.
one so bad. I
Are
should have
you
put it
kidding?
first.
Let me see. I didn't even look at that one. I didn't scroll down.
Matter of fact, I should have. Okay, so I should have done this actually. Hold on, let me show everybody. So this was Rob's
Oh yeah.
words.
You know what?
Wink.
I think I need
Wink.
to have like an actual Native American come on this show and blast Neo. That's what I need to do.
Oh.
That's what I need to do.
All right. East, you ready? I'm about to send it to you.
Come on,
Yeah, man.
Sheridan. Come on, East.
Let me know when you got it.
Huh.
How you say it like that?
Huh.
All right. Are you ready? Let's go.
I can't pass, can I?
No, you can pass. You can just
Okay.
do whichever word you want in whatever order.
All right, I'm gonna go with the second one first.
Go ahead.
All right, slippery,
When wet.
glide, use
Black
the kind
eye.
of WD-40.
What?
Lube. Lubricant.
We'll go with it. We'll go with that. We'll accept it.
All right.
Yes.
You got lube, but you couldn't get condom, people?
It's where you go to pray if you're a Buddhist.
Synagogue.
Temple?
Temple.
Yeah, Temple. I think Rob got that first.
Lies.
We're going to replay. Go ahead. You got time. You got time.
We'll go to tape.
It's not a piano, but an electric piano.
Organ.
A little smaller.
Keyboard.
Yes. 2 seconds.
Ping pong.
I think Rob B might have run with this one, right?
It's been a while. It's been a while.
So East skip. Let's see what you skip. What did you? Those were East words.
Lubrication.
Why you skipped the first one, East? You could have done it. I have faith in you.
I wasn't that one.
Proposing for the next game show. I will be the host of the game.
That's a good idea. I like that.
So then
I'm
I
down.
get for a moment because this is getting ridiculous.
We're gonna do it. We're definitely gonna do that. Well, Rob blew you guys out, so it wasn't even close. We don't need instant replay.
Thank you.
Good job,
Be
Rob.
happy for me, Liz. I'm so happy when you win. Come on.
Whatever. You got women sending Ricin to my country. Hello.
All right, guys, let's get in some shout outs. All right, Lizzie, shout out.
I mean, I guess shout out to Jackson State University. They have a new football coach in Deion Sanders who's deciding he's going to go celebrity primetime and hiring Terrell Owens and Warren Sapp and not any legitimate coaches other than that. So hopefully they'll get it together down there. But, you know, good for Jackson State. It's a lot of buzz for the school, and that's what's needed. So good for them.
All right, Robbie.
Oh, wow. You know, my mom's giving me props, so I've got to give a shout out to my mom. That's awesome. Yeah, no, a shout out to friends and family that have tuned in again this evening. Shout out to our regulars that are always tuning in and commenting. Your comments really help drive the conversation. It's very encouraging to see you all week after week. Thank you so much.
And East? I saw some Easterlings on here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, go figure. Shout out to my wife. I want to give a shout out to my cousin Cotty Easterling, not Katie, Cotty, and all the Easterlings who tuned in. Thank you. I appreciate it. Much appreciation.
All right, we got Brenda Rita online, Paulette Bertrand, Mike Winter, Marjorie, Kevin Thaxton was on with us. Rupka,
Special shout out to my son who's tuned in live for the first time.
Oh, nice. Hey, son.
So
what's his name?
There.
What's his name?
Zach J.
Nice.
Zachary, yeah.
Zachary.
Hey, Zachary.
Oh, there we go. Zachary Bertrand. I see him. All right.
You would remember him from the Warhawk days as Zach J.
Oh, okay. The Warhawk days. Okay, so I got a shout out too. My shout out goes to Deja Jones, our new assistant on the show, who just started working to get us organized and on track. She's watching tonight. And that's all the time we have. Oh, see, look, Cotty Easterling saying hello.
Thank you.
Hey, Connie.
All right, that's all that is all the time we have for the show today. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. We hope you maybe learned something new or gained a new perspective, even got something off your chest if you needed to. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe at TLS Live Show. We are
Tweet me.
Yeah,
Tweet.
definitely tweet Liz E. All right, and don't forget, we have another show Sunday, 4 p.m. with myself, Liz E, Jam, and Rob B. It's going to be our 50th episode. So we are going to have a party. 50 episodes, guys.
Get some, pop some bottles.
That's
some
right.
bottles.
That's right. I'm sorry you're going to miss it, East. I'm sorry you're going to miss it. All right, Rob B. You are a winner. What was your final thought? Final thought for the night.
Final thought is our guest, Kimberlee. Amazing advocacy for people who are disadvantaged. A strong reminder of stepping up for the little ones, the little people that have no voice. Just do what's right. Help each other out.
All right, thanks, Rob B. All right, guys. Lizzie, East, have a good one. We'll see you on Sunday.